luxury car is parked in the middle. Suddenly, a fashionable woman bursts in. She is seen inexplicably kicking the hood of the luxury car. She kicks it twice in a row. Not only is the luxury car stunned, but even the male colleague beside her is stunned. When she comes to her senses, she quickly steps forward to stop her. At this moment, the mall staff also rush over. But this woman not only doesn't restrain herself, but instead becomes more aggressive. Her behavior is even more crazy. First, she overturns the swivel chair next to the display case, and then kicks the left car door a few times. Finally, she even takes off her long boots, and smashes the car window glass. She kicked the front and left sides of the car. A total of about 7 or 8 kicks, causing damage to the car's paint, with varying degrees of damage. The onlookers in the mall are gathering more and more. This woman simply lies on the ground and starts throwing a tantrum. And the male colleague beside her watches all this with a look of helplessness. Helplessly, the staff had no choice but to call the police. The little girl, 90 degrees.
Then the 4S store's display car didn't handle her.
Then we stick it in which place?
Take out a shot.
It turned out that the woman who smashed the car was Miss Wang. That night, their company had an annual dinner. In a moment of joy, she drank a bit too much. After the dinner, her male colleague escorted her home. Who knew that when passing this mall, Miss Wang's intoxication kicked in, while her male colleague wasn't paying attention? She snuck in. Then the scene at the beginning of the video happened. When the police arrived at the scene, Miss Wang's other male colleague also rushed over. However, the reporter found that this male colleague was also reeking of alcohol. But at this time, Miss Wang completely changed her previous arrogant attitude. She seemed much more well-behaved. She hid behind this male colleague, like a child who had made a mistake. When the male colleague asked her if she had smashed the car, she suddenly pretended to be distraught. Did you ride it?
Of course, it's fine.
I didn't kick you. What about your ID? In order to investigate the situation, the police officer asked Miss Wang to show her ID. But she refused. Miss Wang not only didn't cooperate, but even kicked the police officer. There's no way. The police could only take Miss Wang back to sober up first. I even asked lawyer Wang, and she's still this drunk. And yet she still asked for a lawyer. Idiot. I really don't know if she's genuinely drunk or faking it. The next day, after Miss Wang sobered up, she deeply regretted her actions of the previous night. She kept explaining that she was drunk and remembered nothing. Well, this is a ridiculous excuse. Does being drunk mean you're not responsible for your actions? Of course not. In the end, Miss Wang was taken into custody for suspected property damage. Compulsory measures were taken. Later, the staff also found a third party to assess the damage to the imported luxury car. Because this car is imported. It's an Alfa Romeo. It's a show car, and it wasn't officially registered. So, according to the standards of a third-party appraisal agency, the assessed loss is 19,000 yuan. The car that was smashed is an imported Alfa Romeo. The original price of the car was about 400,000 yuan. But considering it's a show car, and it wasn't officially registered, the third-party appraisal agency ultimately assessed the damage to the car at 19,000 yuan. However, regarding the compensation amount, the 4S store expressed its rejection. Even though this is a show car, it is indeed a brand new imported car. It could have been sold normally, but as a result of this smash, it immediately became a used car. The price also dropped from the original 400,000 to 280,000. The 4S store requested 150,000 yuan in civil compensation from Miss Wang. If Miss Wang has any objections, they will appeal. It's good to have friends over for dinner. Old Qian, the food-loving Beijing elder. His love for food is obvious. To let everyone experience more kinds of food, and also to promote popular restaurants from all over. Old Qian embarked on his journey as a food blogger. Follow me. Old Qian satisfies your cravings, and also let millions of netizens follow Old Qian to taste the food from all over the country. And his filming direction is never limited to any price point. From street food stalls to high-end buffet costing hundreds of yuan per person, everything is available. Every time he eats a few economical restaurants, he rewards himself with a buffet. Wherever he goes, he eats. This has become his only rule for exploring restaurants. He doesn't accept any invitations to explore restaurants. It has become his only persistence. It's the true, unvarnished, authentic reviews, which has helped everyone avoid many disappointing restaurants. Of course, when you're in the game, you're bound to get hurt. The more you speak the truth, the more likely you are to be retaliated against by the restaurants you review. Recently, Old Qian received a formal complaint from a restaurant for infringement of his right to reputation and malicious defamation. This also hit Old Qian hard. And this isn't the first time Old Qian has been complained about. It's just that previous restaurants have used various channels. Some restaurants have humbly accepted and actively improved. But this time, Old Qian was directly maliciously complained about. We said a buffet restaurant was good. Many people said we were paid. They said we were taking money for reviews. If we say the restaurant isn't good, it will make the owners of these buffet restaurants. At the least, they will complain and ask for our video to be taken down. In serious cases, their boss will post videos scolding me, haha. Then they'll go live and scold me. In fact, he could have avoided these complaints and pressure if he just went with the flow. The same as everyone else, taking money for reviews. Favorable reviews and praise would come pouring in. He wouldn't have to endure so much pressure himself. But in order to be worthy of his millions of fans, every time he eats a buffet, Old Qian always takes his team to explore restaurants at his own expense. A buffet would average cost of several hundred yuan per person. When he goes, it's a grand affair. A group of staff. Plus, he doesn't live stream or sell products. Buffet are already exhausting and time-consuming. and still get complaints. This time, better a short pain than a long one. Old Qian directly cut the unrewarding self-funded reviews. He refuses to top up. It also unveils the tip of the iceberg of self-service restaurant exploration. How many people are not afraid of pressure? Real reviews. And how many people are taking the merchant's rewards to confuse the public? The last one who dared to speak the truth, Little Chan, because he spoke the truth, was almost collectively beaten up by the merchants. This time, foodie old Qian doesn't recommend Shandong women. His son is just 1 month old. While everyone was celebrating, the woman said she was about to give birth again. After the doctor's examination, they explained, "Never seen this in 20 years. What exactly is going on?" In 2008, Mr. and Mrs. Zhao from Shandong were both normal, healthy people. Since they got married, they had always wanted a child to build their own little family. But as time went on, Ms. Zhao's belly showed no signs. Because in the countryside, if a couple doesn't have a child for a long time after getting married, they would be gossiped about. So Mr. Zhao's husband took Ms. Zhao to a hospital in the city for a checkup. After a series of detailed examinations, the doctor told them, "Don't worry. Your bodies are both healthy. There's nothing wrong. Just wait and see. Maybe it'll happen." But Mr. Zhao's husband doesn't think so. So he repeatedly asked the doctor to help find a solution, so that Mrs. Zhao could get pregnant as soon as possible. Seeing the couple so anxious, the doctor had to agree to the request. So they gave Mrs. Zhao ovulation-inducing injections, hoping this will increase the chances of pregnancy. But unexpectedly, Dr. Zhu's action nearly cost Ms. Zhao her life. What's going on? Not long after Ms. Zhao received the ovulation injection, she became pregnant as desired. Since learning that his wife was pregnant, Ms. Zhao's husband couldn't bear to let his wife do any heavy work, afraid something might go wrong. After safely getting through 8 months of pregnancy, when it was still a month before her due date, Ms. Zhao was suddenly rushed to the hospital because of abdominal pain. After a doctor's examination, Ms. Zhao was already 4 centimeters dilated. There were signs of premature labor. So the nurse immediately pushed Ms. Zhao into the delivery room. Not long after, a baby's cry came out. Then the nurse walked out holding the baby and congratulated them, saying mother and child were safe. Then, Ms. Zhao's husband immediately entered the delivery room to see his wife. Seeing his wife who had just given birth, Ms. Zhao's husband looked heartbroken, although the baby was born a month early. After a doctor's examination, he was told the baby was developing well. There was nothing to worry about. Hearing this, the couple's hearts finally settled. But what's puzzling is that she clearly gave birth to the baby. But Ms. Zhao's belly didn't shrink much. Could it be that Ms. Zhao gained too much weight during her pregnancy? Is there another reason for this? The couple, immersed in joy, didn't think much about it. After a few days of recovery, they went home. Ms. Zhao was also very happy after having her son. She smiled brightly every day. Not long after, Ms. Zhao's son was turning 1 month old. On this joyous day, relatives and friends gathered together to celebrate the birth of Ms. Zhao's baby. Just then, Ms. Zhao suddenly started shouting in the room. This startled everyone present. What on earth was happening? Hearing his wife shout, Ms. Zhao's husband and relatives all rushed into the room. After seeing her husband arrive, Ms. Zhao immediately said, "I'm going into labor. Hurry to the hospital." At this moment, Ms. Zhao's words startled everyone present. She just gave birth to her son a month ago. How is she going into labor again? But seeing his wife's cries of pain, Ms. Zhao's husband couldn't think too much about it either. He immediately contacted the ambulance. After rushing to the hospital, Ms. Zhao's husband found Dr. Zhong, who had delivered the baby a month ago. Dr. Zhong looked bewildered when he saw Ms. Zhao, but he still immediately started to examine her. But Ms. Zhao said, "I'm going to give birth. What's going on this time?" After Ms. Zhong had her first child, Dr. Zhong carefully examined her body. He was discharged only after we made sure there were no problems. But her belly was a bit big at the time. Even though we were a bit puzzled, we didn't find anything wrong. Now, Ms. Zhao says she's going into labor again. So, although we don't dare to believe it, there is no other reason for Ms. Zhao to feel this way. So, Dr. Zhong took Ms. Zhao for another examination. After an X-ray examination, there's no baby in Ms. Zhao's belly. Then why does she think she's going into labor? After that, Ms. Zhao's husband took her to another hospital. They went to the provincial hospital. After another examination, the doctors were also puzzled. Just then, an old professor's words enlightened the doctors. Then the doctor immediately took Ms. Zhao for an ultrasound. The test results were indeed surprising. It turned out that Ms. Zhao really did have another baby inside her. It turned out Ms. Zhao had a double uterus. The probability of this is 1 in 10 million. Even the doctor in charge sighed. He'd never encountered it in his 20 years of practice. Afterwards, the doctor performed a C-section on Ms. Zhao. Although the surgical process was very dangerous, they were fortunate. They were very grateful to have met the old professor who came for medical exchange. With the guidance of the old professor, the surgery was also completed safely. Ms. Zhong gave birth to another lovely daughter. Kind people usually have good luck. Fate will also bring you different surprises. Life is long, and cherish the journey. I'm awesome. Thank you for watching. That's all for this story. See you tomorrow. 2022. The renovation of the owner of the second floor of Building 8, Wuhan Tianji West District. But it made the owners of the whole building uneasy. The owner of the second floor renovation is Aunt Han. The house was also just bought by herself, because the house area is not large. So she prepared to renovate it properly. Then she began to arrange for the workers to enter the factory, in order to have more storage space. So, he let the workers start construction with great fanfare. Not only did they rearrange the entire layout of the house, but they also tore down several walls. But what was unexpected was that the neighbors upstairs were frightened in the following week. Because within just 1 week, the bedrooms and balconies of several neighbors upstairs successively showed cracks. Even the outer walls cracked open. Then, after the neighbors' investigation, everyone finally found the problem at Miss Han's house. Because Aunt Han thought the layout was bad, she had the workers demolish the load-bearing wall between the balcony and the living room. But what was even more infuriating was that, when Aunt Han was renovating, neighbors Aunt Xiao and others had already told Aunt Han about removing the load-bearing wall would cause great damage and have a huge impact on the entire building. But unexpectedly, Aunt not only did not listen to the advice, but also, after demolishing the load-bearing wall, and even cut all the steel bars inside. This is also the ultimate reason for the cracking of the entire building. But now that it has come to this, what should be done? Afterwards, the relevant departments assessed the damage to the houses, and informed the owners, including Miss Xiao, to remove the load-bearing walls by force. The damage caused to the houses upstairs is irreparable. Even if the downstairs made repairs, there is no way to ensure that cracks won't appear again in the future. But since things have come to this, there is no better way. So they notified Aunt Han on the second floor to restore the removed load-bearing wall. But right after restoring the load-bearing wall, Aunt Han was still subjected to cyberbullying from her neighbors. How did this happen? Even after the repairs, you guys still won't let it go. They drove me to this. It turned out that after Miss Xiao's inspection, it was discovered that Aunt Han's repair of the load-bearing wall was completely perfunctory. Not only did they not professionally restore the damaged steel-reinforced wall, but they also just randomly found a construction team and simply built up the wall with red bricks. It did not help the safety of the entire building at all. Seeing more and more cracks, the owners upstairs felt that even sleeping at home felt like their lives were in danger at any time. So they successively left the building. Then, in order to resolve this matter as soon as possible, Sister Xiao and others planned to talk to Aunt Han again. But an accident happened. Aunt Han disappeared. It turned out when they started to repair the load-bearing wall, the neighbors all offered solutions. But because Aunt Han thought the cost was too high, she secretly spent a little money to do it perfunctorily. Later, after being exposed, she even threatened to commit suicide. Finally, facing everyone's scolding, Aunt Han chose to hide. But the cracks that kept spreading in the house also made the neighbors feel their lives were in danger at all times. So after contacting many parties, they managed to find Aunt Han's daughter. Then, after the daughter's persuasion, Aunt Han finally came forward again. She was willing to bear all the losses caused by this matter. And she also hoped that everyone could forgive her previous actions. This matter is considered to be over. Regarding this matter,
What do you think in front of the screen?